Great football weather. Glad you could be with us here on JP Sports. Here's Jones on a keeper. Out over the 40 to midfield. Matt Jones may take it to the house. And the dunk. That'll bring out some flags, but it is senior day.
Amen. Wow.
He's a basketball junkie.
Hey, this is Dave Neal with ESPN. You're listening to The Morning Rush.
Hour number 3 of The Morning Rush. Want to go to the phone lines and welcome in a guy that has been a part of my life since I was a young boy. It is Dave Neal of the SEC Network and ESPN. You can hear him on the call of Arkansas, Georgia tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Dave, thank you so much for making some time for us on The Morning Rush, man.
Hey, man, I'm glad we're talking some football. I mean, it's 24 hours away. I didn't think we'd get to this point, so glad to be a part of the show.
And I know you're really excited. I know you were telling us during the break that you are not in Fayetteville yet. You're currently on your way. Now, we heard the Matt Jones highlight clip that people just love hearing over and over again. You got to call his senior day game. Dave, what do you enjoy about making the trip to Fayetteville, Arkansas?
First of all, it's some of the most beautiful country that we have to offer in the United States. It is it's something special. The people are great, but the passion for football, and this is why I get asked a lot about, hey, certain teams, what do you expect? What do we need from them? Who's important to the league? And I think Arkansas is one of those teams. I think the league is better when Arkansas is better. I think it's better when the fans are engaged. I think it's just better when they compete and you think you have a chance to win. So, I hope that Sam Pittman's the right guy that can kind of get this train headed in the right direction. I spent quite a bit of time in Fayetteville last year following this team, and at no point, really, I was there for the opener, as a matter of fact. And you walked away from the stadium scratching your head like, oh boy, this is going to be a long year. Little did we know how long it would be. So, anyway, I just hope that there's some excitement. I know the crowd's going to be small. At least there will be a crowd. I've already done a couple of games, and not having anybody in the stands is a little different and unique. So it'll be nice to see some people in the building. But, I'm excited to get started.
Dave, you have a great historical context working for Raycom Sports, working for Jefferson Pilot Sports. You know that this Arkansas team has had success over the years, and we've taken call after call this morning wanting them to get back to that point. How, when you're talking about this with your colleagues, when you're talking about this with just different people across the SEC about Arkansas, how much does it actually come up that Arkansas used to compete in this conference when it seems like a lifetime ago?
Well, it does seem like a long time ago. It really does. But there have been, glimmers of hope, but there's never been any sustained success, really. You had a little bit of run with Petrino, right? I mean, you had some excitement, but that whole thing blew up, as we all know and try to forget sometimes. But, to have that sustained success, it's, you got to really go back to the Houston Nut run. The Felix Jones and the Darren McFadden's of the world. And I don't know why Arkansas can't get there. I really don't, because when you go around the league like I do, really around the country, and see some of these other facilities, Arkansas's got some of the best to offer, and it's such a great place to live. The people are awesome. I just don't understand why they can't get the same kind of dudes as some other places. They get some of the dudes, but you got to have a bunch of dudes. I'm looking at this game, and I'm looking at Georgia's recruiting classes the last couple of years. I mean, it is 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. Arkansas's got a few 5-stars scattered around, right? I mean, over the last few years. So that's where they got to make the jump. I mean, they got to find some way, somehow, to connect with these kids at an elite level to get them back to where they need to be. You can't just have a couple. You got to have, in this league, you got to have a bunch of these dudes, the 4 and the 5 stars, and there's just not enough on the roster right now for Arkansas.
Dave, seemingly this game tomorrow is a mismatch. Number 4, Georgia against an Arkansas team that's rebuilding in a transition phase with the new coaching staff. As you've looked at it, as you've studied these rosters, what does Arkansas need to do to keep this game close?
They need to pick off some passes, create some fumbles, return some kicks, fake punt it, all those things, right?
That's all?
Everything, that's it. That's all they got to do. Here's the thing. Georgia sure on paper is, I don't even know what the line is now, 27 maybe, something like that. It's been fluctuating all week. Right. But, it is a huge line. And I think what a win here for Arkansas is, let's get this thing into the fourth quarter and have it within a touchdown or two, and give ourselves an opportunity. I think you walk away from that situation feeling pretty good about where you are. And look, man, this is a tough deal. This whole COVID thing is a tough deal. It's just magnified the fact that you got to start with Georgia, who has a chance to win a national championship depending on that quarterback play turns out for them. But, Felipe Franks is a guy that's been around. He's played a lot of snaps in the SEC. He knows what this is all about. You got Rakeem Boyd, who's played a lot of snaps in this league. He knows what this is all about. You got some of those young receivers that, fortunately, got a lot of snaps last year as well. Can the O-line hold up big enough, long enough against that big Georgia defense is the question offensively for them. And for Arkansas, defensively, you just can't give up these big plays. You got to make Georgia earn it. As I said, just when you get late in the third quarter, give yourself an opportunity. You know what I mean? It's not like you need to be up by 7 or 14. Just give yourself a chance to make a play or two and walk away and feel good about yourselves after week one.
Have you done your pregame visit with Sam Pittman yet? I know all those are done by Zoom now rather than a day or two before the game. Have you had a chance to do that yet?
We did that yesterday afternoon.
Yeah. What were your impressions with the new head coach?
I've known Sam for a while, but it's different as a head coach. It really is. Guys are so much looser when they're not the head coach. But Sam, to his credit, is the same dude he has always been, and it's a joy. I love his passion, and he's got passion about his job. Don't get me wrong, but his passion about these kids. He just lights up when he starts talking about kids, and what they mean, and the stories, the stories of guys having to overcome maybe something in their background or some injuries, or they've got a lot going on in their life, but yet they come to practice and they're focused and they get better every day. He loves telling you those stories, and I think that's one of the reasons the kids connect with him. Look, nobody really knows how Sam Pittman's going to be as a head coach. No, there is no outline for this in terms of how this is going to go. I do know this, that Barry Odom is one hell of a defensive coordinator, and he has so much respect around the league. That's a great hire. Kendall Briles, his offense, some call it gimmicky or whatnot, but it has worked wherever he's been. He turned Florida State's offense, I'm not going to say around, but he made substantial improvements from one year to the next at Florida State compared to where they were. So I think you got a shot. I just don't know if you have the pieces to fit that yet. But I do like what he has put together as a staff, and I just think Sam's a guy the kids are going to cling to and want to be around, and that's a big start in terms of getting them here to Fayetteville.
Dave Neal, SEC Network, ESPN, with us on the Morning Rush. He'll be on call for the Georgia-Arkansas game tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Dave, when you've looked at this matchup, you've talked to Kirby, you've talked to Sam, what do you think is an undervalued matchup in this football game?
Oh, I think there's no doubt that Georgia's secondary is certainly talented, and I think wide receivers for Arkansas are untested for the most part. A couple of guys that jumped out at you a year ago, Trey Knox, Traylon Burks, are very talented SEC-type receivers, and Mike Woods proved that he can make some plays for you, but not a lot of people talk about that group. And, heck, here's the deal. As bad as Arkansas has been the last couple of years, people really haven't paid a whole lot of attention to them. So here's an opportunity, and it's just a tough one because you're playing 10 league games, but here's a chance for Arkansas to win a couple of games this year that maybe they're not supposed to win, that nobody gives them credit. And all it takes is a couple of those upsets, wherever it may be, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden people start looking at this and going, hey, maybe they're onto something at Arkansas. Maybe Sam Pittman is the kind of guy I want to go play for. So if these guys can make a few plays, get on some highlight reels, and there is a little bit of buzz about this program, then things start to turn a little bit. But back to your question, I think that's the one. Can Arkansas's wide receivers make a few plays on this Georgia secondary? That's so good.
Dave, like you, we got a chance to talk with Sam Pittman over Zoom yesterday, and he said there will be some players missing because of the coronavirus. Just with him and Kirby, what do you anticipate with Georgia and Arkansas's rosters looking like on Saturday with just COVID impacting them?
Well, I tell you this, Kirby has been ultra conservative when it comes to announcing that COVID stuff. The fact that we know that there's a few guys, and we'll find out more because I think there was some more testing going on. So what I got yesterday was when I get to Fayetteville here in a few hours, that I'll get more information about who might be missing for Arkansas simply because they weren't completed with their test results as of yet. But listen, man, as far as Georgia goes, nobody has any idea who's missing, and I guess we'll find out when we look down there in warm-ups and see who's not in a uniform. But that's going to be a factor all year, guys. It's not just this game. It's going to. I think COVID will eventually determine who wins this SEC, who can survive this season without having to sit some of their star players out. I just can't see how we get through this season without without every team being impacted at some point. I'm not saying cancel games, but the roster being impacted through contact tracing, not just positive tests. But it's going to be a big issue I think, of who wins this league.
Yeah. You're going to be in Fayetteville for this game. I assume there'll be some games this year you'll call remotely, which is one of the big changes with televising and broadcasting games this year. How does your schedule look as far as doing games remotely this year? Because as we've talked to other broadcasters, that's one adjustment guys in your spots have had to make this year.
Well, I kind of just shake my head a little bit because, this is my 22nd, 23rd year of calling SEC football games. And it's already the most bizarre thing I've ever been a part of. This will be my fourth game, my third game. And my fourth game next week will be Missouri at Tennessee. And of my first four games will have all been done four different ways with four different producers. And next week will be my first time to do a game remotely. When I say remotely, from my office. Wow. They're setting up a whole studio for me on Tuesday in here with monitors and headsets. To say I'm nervous about it would be an understatement. I mean, it's crazy that this is how we have to do things, but it is what it is, and I'll do whatever they want me to do so that we can, have some football. But I'm very excited to get to Fayetteville. To be there in person, I think it's such a huge advantage in our jobs to be there and see things that you cannot see on a monitor. But it is what it is. And listen, I'm going to, there'll be some moments next week. If you're not busy, I think it's a noon kick. If you're not busy, you might want to dial that up because it could be entertaining in a lot of different ways next Saturday.
Everybody's hoping the internet stays. Everybody in this business just hopes the internet stays good while you're on the air because everything operates on the internet now. So if the fiber goes down, we are all in trouble. So, hey.
That is so true.
22 years around the league. Let's take a look around the league while we got you here and get some of your perspective. Obviously, Arkansas is entertaining tomorrow in their visitor, one of the best teams not only in the league but in the country. Alabama is also expected to be, as always, very good. Florida's expected to be in the mix with those other two teams. Who's that other team in the league that maybe will be the surprise this year, that will be the team that no one's really talking about at this point with a shortened 10-game schedule that could maybe make some noise in an unusual year?
Well, I'll say this. In this league, everybody talks about everybody. There is no team that you don't at least have in the conversation. But, the top, to start the top for me, I know Florida came out last week. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? The media poll came out, and Florida expected to win the SEC East. And listen, they are good. But I'm not convinced that Georgia's ready to give up that title just yet. And I think the questions are at the quarterback position, obviously, for Georgia. But I think what they have to offer certainly are talented guys. But we'll find out. We'll see. But I'm not quite ready to give Florida.
Georgia's defense is still pretty strong. So.
Yeah, I mean, you probably got of their 15 to 18 guys that'll be in the main rotation. Probably 8 to 10 of those guys will play in the NFL at some point. I mean, let's not give Florida that crown just yet. But Florida's good. Do not get me wrong. I understand that they are a viable option, but I'm certainly not ready to hand that over to them. I think a team that I'm anxious to see, and I don't know how this is going to play out just because the way they finished last year, the new coaching change, but it's Missouri with Eli Drinkwitz, who at App State in 1 year really did a great job. And I know it necessarily wasn't his team, so to speak. It was Scott Satterfield, who's at Louisville now. But Missouri, to me, is that team. I just don't know what they're going to be, what they're going to look like. You just don't know anything about them. And the other team that I'm anxious to see play is LSU, just because of how good they were last year. Can they stay at a level? I don't think anybody will ever get in my lifetime to the level LSU was last year. Fortunate to have them a couple times and watch that in person, and it was almost surreal at times. But Ed Ogeron right now, man, he's living the dream, right? I mean, he's the Savior Saint down there in the Bayou, but now's a chance to see what he can really do as a head coach and get these guys ready to play. So that's my other big question in terms of what to watch for in this league, other than the obvious storyline.
Dave, we had your colleague Sean McDonough on last Monday, and he told us that he's basically cornered in his hotel room, not doing anything prior to games. So before I let you go, are you going to get a chance to go to your favorite restaurant in Fayetteville, or are you pretty much just going to be in the hotel tonight and cornered in until the game tomorrow?
Look, I mean, I guess I could sneak out, but I don't think that, but ESPN is, I mean, they are, it's a Disney company, and Disney's company guidelines are pretty strict, and they ask a lot of us if we're going to be out on the road to follow certain protocols and do things as carefully as we can. And unfortunately, I'll probably be stuck in the hotel, and it's just, I love going down into Fayetteville and seeing the people on game days and game weekends, but it's just a different deal. I mean, it really is. And so, I'm going to be as careful as possible, which probably means I'll just have to suck it up at least this trip and maybe a few more before I start venturing out into the world. But listen, I'm just glad they let me go. I mean, next week I can't go. So this week I'm going to enjoy the process of just going and being at a game.
He's been a part of your life for 20-something years. Dave Neal of the SEC Network and ESPN, formerly of Raycom Sports and Jefferson Pilot Sports. Dave, thanks so much for your time this morning. Best of luck in the game tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and hopefully it's not a blowout, it's a tight one, so you can have a fun time calling it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that, and thanks for having me on. You guys have a great weekend, and Ben, am I just glad we have some football. So you guys enjoy.
All right, and good luck with that internet next week.
That's probably the most important thing you've said all day.
I'm telling you, we're all living and dying by the internet in our homes and our businesses.
Oh, my gosh. Well, thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate it, Dave.